You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today on our House Call edition, we're taking your questions from over the past week or two. And today there are a lot of nutrition-based ones, a lot of recipe-based ones, and also a supplement one, which we're going to get started on right now. So the first question's coming in today from Ken. Ken is asking, can you take too much omega-3s? So a lot of people have definitely heard the research really over the last 10 years because it's been so prevalent over the past decade, how omega-3s, a lot of the omega-3s that come from fish and seafood for the most part, some of those omega-3s do come from flax and from chia, but the only thing about the flax and the chia, that they're not high in EPA and DHA, which are the most neurologically beneficial for your nervous system, and then also anti-inflammatory. So although flax and chia are fantastic foods, they don't get converted as well, somewhere between 6 to 14% of the omega-3s from the ALA in flax and chia get eventually converted to EPA. So it's a lower conversion rate. It doesn't mean don't eat them. You can eat them from many other factors besides just omega-3s. So when Ken is asking, can you take too many omega-3s? There's conflicting reports on this, but let's just go to the science. So what does the science tell us? Well, omega-3s are a polyunsaturated fat. So that means, really important, that you only buy a small bottle at a time of omega-3s, that you do use that bottle really within the month, because those omega-3s, every time you open the bottle, they become more and more oxidized, and polyunsaturated fats become oxidized really easily, which is why, you really can't cook with them. They break down too quickly. Okay, so that's the first part, because you don't want to be taking rancid fish oil. And so again, omega-3s, fish oil, typically one and the same. You can also get it from algae as well as a vegan or vegetarian-based source. So here's the other part. So a lot of people online, like Dr. Will says, no, you cannot take too much omega-3s. And although I respect him and I think his work is fantastic, you actually can take too many omega-3s. They're finding right now that too many omega-3s and the quality of the polyunsaturated fat can do a few things. One is it's already been known and shown to be a blood thinner. So if you're on anticoagulants or you're about to have surgery or you get a lot of nosebleeds or anything like that, you may want to cut down on your omega-3s or just stop them until you find out if it's okay for you to be taking them. That's for certain. Certainly stop it before surgery or if you're on a blood thinning based medication. The other thing is when I look at blood under the microscope. And so when you look at the red blood cells, every outside of the cell has what's called a bilipid membrane. That just means two fats. So it has hard fats and it has soft fats. Omega-3s would be the soft fats, right? The polyunsaturated fats. And the hard fats would be the sterols or let's call them saturated fats. So the whole thing about our bodies and nature and natural health is that we want balance. So of course you can overdo a good thing as well in our bodies. Like you can take too much magnesium. You can take too much, even turmeric. You can take too much of all of these things. So, but let's just be realistic. Most people aren't going to take more than 3 grams of omega-3 fish oil per day. Most people take between 1 and 3 grams per day, and that's fantastic. So here's the thing. You can find out the exact level for you. All you have to do is take a little blood spot test. Literally use a lancet. You poke your finger just like a diabetic would. You put a few drops of blood on a paper, you mail it in, and it tells you exactly how much omega-3s you need to reduce your risk of coronary artery disease by 90%, okay? It's an amazing statistic. The lab you can purchase right at our store at stephencabral.com/store, or if you're seeing a naturopathic doctor, or a functional medicine doctor, they could probably do that for you as well. Really, really important. It's an amazing test, and that will actually tell you how much you should be taking per day. Or if you already eat things like sardines and other good high omega-3 fish in your diet, then you might not even need to supplement. So let's just use science. Let's use functional medicine and what it's there for, and just find out if you are taking the right level for you. So Ken, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that works. They're actually even looking at, or one more thing that taking too much or too many omega-3s would do, and it looks like it might be even too anti-inflammatory, meaning not enough of an immune reaction from your body to kill certain pathogens. That's like up to the date, cutting edge research right there. So, but it's simple. Don't overdo it. Take anywhere from 1 to 3 grams per day of omega-3s and you're going to be fine. I've never seen anyone overdo it with that dosage. Okay. Don is up next. Don's asking, I have a Baker's cyst. It's very painful. It's inflammatory. How did I get it? What can I do about it? Okay, so a Baker's cyst, it's a very strange, name when we think about it, what's a Baker's cyst? But for most people get a Baker's cyst or an inflammation of the Baker's cyst actually behind their knee. So I'm not sure exactly where Don's is, but that's the most common, and it's very painful. It hurts to essentially bend the knee, and it's inflamed. It gets swollen. So what it is actually like a fluid-filled sac that's right behind the kneecap, and it can get filled up typically from repetitive-based motion, okay? So let's say you're a runner, or your knee's out of alignment, or you've been doing too much biking or elliptical, and again, it's only when you're inflamed. So there's a very simple answer for you, because I see people with Baker's cysts all the time. One is you have to cut down on any of the repetitive motion-based exercises that may have caused it. Let's say like hiking for 2 miles uphill one day or something like that. And so you're going to do lower repetitive exercise, lower repetitive motion, give it a week maybe to cool down. And also you're going to put yourself on an anti-inflammatory based nutrition plan. You can certainly do a detox that would help tremendously to lower the inflammation-based levels. But those are the two main things. So you're going to reduce the inflammation, you're going to reduce the repetitive motion exercise, and that should just really just drop that inflammation right down. The detox works fantastic. And also you can add in some of the turmeric that I did recommend on episode 164 on this past Tuesday. Please do check that out if you haven't. It was called, Is This the New Cure-All? That was basically the episode name. So check that out, Dawn. Hopefully that answers your question. And then Dawn has a follow-up question today. She's asking, are nut flours good for you like coconut flour? Okay, so let's get into that. I get a lot of questions on this. I'll tell you right up front, I have never been an advocate of nut flours. Here's why. When things are in their natural state. Let's just look at almonds, okay? So when you're looking at almonds, on the outside of an almond, it has that brown skin, right? Well, that skin acts as an antioxidant layer as well to not oxidize the inside of the almond, that nut on the inside, which is like a tan, right? A whitish tan color. Okay, so when you blend it up to make a nut butter, it oxidizes, meaning like you get rid of the antioxidant layer, it starts to oxidize, the fat starts to go rancid. So ideally, nut butters are not ideal either. However, I know they're convenient, and yes, they can be a relatively good choice for you. I do understand that part. Nut flour is the same exact thing. You're blending them up to a nut flour. You're not adding any oil. It's being dried. And again, they're being oxidized. But the real issue I have is the quantity of nuts that you're eating at one time. So it would be normal, like if you lived in nature, think about how hard it would be to crack all of these nuts. Like you don't have them shelled. You'd probably eat like maybe 7 to 10 at a time or so. Okay, with nut flours, with a nut flour, you could be eating 40 at a time. And so I don't believe 40 nuts at a time would be that healthy for you with the different fats in the nuts. And again, a lot of the fat from nuts is good, but not when oxidized. And the other thing is the amount of fiber can be insane on your digestive system. So here's the thing. A lot of paleo-based recipes, and again, with good intentions, I'm not saying that a lot of paleo-based chefs aren't using good intentions, but I know a lot of people who can't eat paleo-based desserts that are made with coconut flour, and the reason is it has an insane amount of fiber. No human should be eating 30 grams of fiber at a meal in like a little piece of cake. So when you're making these recipes, you have to look at the ingredient label, and you'll see that a lot of the nut flour recipes call for between 20 and 30 plus grams of fiber for that recipe. And again, that's a lot of fiber to handle on your digestive tract. I'm a big believer in fiber. I believe people should get 30 to 40 plus grams per day, but not all in one sitting, right? So that can be pretty challenging. So what do I use? Well, if you go on my Instagram page, and I've sent out this link before, I'll put in the notes today. Why don't I do that on today's show notes? Is the recipe that I use. And I use an oat flour. A lot of people use rice flours. Rice flour is a little grittier. A lot of people use the Bob's Red Mill, like gluten-free flours. What I like is just the Bob's Red Mill pure gluten-free oat flour. And the reason I like that is it's very non-reactive because I do a lot of food sensitivity testing, so I can see that for sure. Oats can be eaten in their raw form or cooked form. Oats are fantastic as a fiber for also have been shown to lower blood cholesterol as well as balancing blood sugar. Again, non-reactive for the most part. Been eaten for thousands and thousands of years, and it's only one ingredient in this gluten-free oat flour, which is just the whole grain ground oats. So really like using that. There's no starches, there's no xanthan gum, there's no anything that can gum up the intestines of all of the people that I work with. Remember, I'm working with people with SIBO, Crohn's, colitis, IBS, all sorts of digestive-based issues. And I have to be really gentle with what I do recommend for them. So again, a nut flour could be perfectly acceptable for you, but not a lot of the people with the digestive-based issues that I work with. So I simply make things easy. You can use a oat flour. Again, if you're paleo and you say, well, I just don't want to, think about it. No one in paleo times used ground coconut flour for baking cakes and muffins and all of this. So again, like, are we really talking paleo or what are we really talking about? If you're going to make those things, I would certainly go with the gluten-free oat flour. That's my opinion. You're welcome to do what you feel is best for you and your family. Hopefully that answered your question, and the questions go by quick, so keep them coming. I always appreciate everyone sending in their questions and giving me just the fantastic feedback. I have a great success story to share with you tomorrow on another Cabral House Call. Hopefully I'll speak with you then. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.